Have you ever wondered about why we have a spring break? Well, if you have, you're in luck because that is what we're going to talk about today. So let's get started. How's it going, everybody? Welcome to Virtual History 360. I'm Mr. Wade, and we are talking about the history of spring break. And be sure to stick around until the end of the video so that you can hear about how history is repeating itself this year in Fort Lauderdale. But before we get to present day, let's get to the question at hand. What is the history of spring break? Now, I could go on and on and on about ancient cultures welcoming in the good weather after a bleak winter by holding parties that lasted for days upon days. But, that's not why you're here. So, what do you say? What do you think we should do? We should talk about the spring break we all know and love today. To tell that story, we need to go back almost 100 years. In 1928, Fort Lauderdale opened the very first Olympic-sized swimming pool in the state of Florida. Well, as you can probably guess, the weather in Fort Lauderdale, South Florida, that weather allowed for nearly year-round swimming. That's great for Florida, but not every state has that luxury. Well, in 1935, the swim coach at Colgate University had an idea. Now let me tell you about Colgate. Colgate University is located in upstate New York, between Cooperstown and Syracuse, not too far from Syracuse. And as you can probably guess, being in upstate New York, they could not swim. The swim team could not swim during the winter months. So, the coach took his team to Fort Lauderdale during their Easter vacation so that they could use that brand new Olympic-sized swimming pool. Well, once one person has an idea, it tends to spread, and this idea spread to other colleges, and it soon became popular to head south to train before your season started. Well, but here's the thing. You can only swim so much, right? And then after that, you're left with a bunch of free time. Yeah, free time that was filled with college students partying. This annual event became more and more popular through the 1940s and 50s, but it was not until the book Where the Boys Are by Glendon Swarthout was published in 1960 that the trend exploded. You see, Swarthout was a professor at Michigan State University, and in 1958 he followed along with his students to Fort Lauderdale to see what all was going on. It's kind of weird, don't you think? But nevertheless, once he was there, that is when he saw the debauchery firsthand. And soon after he published the novel in 1960, MGM turned it into a blockbuster movie. Just like today, movies drive trends, right? Well, this drove the popularity of spring break in Florida through the roof. Annual attendance jumped from 20,000 to 50,000. That's a pretty big jump, right? But it kept growing. Seriously, by 1985, there were an estimated 350,000 college students partying in the city during spring break. It was after that year that the Fort Lauderdale itself and the mayor imposed a ban on public drinking and alcohol on the beaches. The mayor even announced on national TV, he went on Good Morning America, he said that he wanted kids to take their balcony diving and drunk driving antics to other cities. Well, it worked for Fort Lauderdale. It slowed down the barrage on that city, on Fort Lauderdale itself. But other cities in Florida, such as Daytona Beach, Panama City Beach, right? Up there in the Panhandle on the East Coast, they absorbed the crowds, okay? Now, timing is impeccable because the very next year is when MTV aired their first spring break special. They went to places, like Daytona or Cancun, Jamaica, Lake Havasu in Arizona, right? But their programs, with their help, spring break became an institution across the country, but their popularity began to fade as most trends do over time. But no matter what the current trend is, teachers and students alike all welcome this small break to relax and recharge their batteries before finishing the spring semester. Now, that was a brief overview on spring break. It is actually a fairly deep subject that, if you'd like to know more about, I recommend looking into a couple different events, a couple different things. One would be events like Freaknik in Atlanta. That was huge. That's a whole other topic to talk about. And then there's also alternative spring break events. A bunch of organizations do this, but one of the bigger ones was Habitat for Humanity. Options for college students to do instead of going to the beaches. But what about the question I asked at the beginning of the video? What about history repeating itself? Well, would you believe that just one location, not the whole city, but the Wharf in Fort Lauderdale announced on March 5th of this year, 2021, that they were banning out-of-state spring breakers under the age of 23. Now, of course, the motivation for this is a little different than it was back in 1985, with COVID-19, the pandemic still impacting all of us. But what do you think? What do you think about cities, banning spring breakers? Banning these kids, these college kids from coming into their towns. Whether it be to control the crowd or to keep people safe, it's still a travel ban or a ban on travel. Let me know what you think. Tell me in the comments below, okay? And while you're there, go ahead and hit that like button for me. I love the engagement. And if that button is red, don't forget to subscribe and turn it gray. And of course, you can always check out my other videos, like the ones you see to the side over here. I have other history videos, random history like this. I have U.S. history, I have civics, I have world history. I even have videos shot in 360 that you can look all the way around. I know you're going to like them, so go ahead and check them out when you get a chance. All right, for Virtual History 360, I'm Mr. Wade. I'll see you next time.